Martin DeWitt is a visual artist immersed in making art full-time after 30 years of arts administrative work in Duluth and points east. And now he's back home preparing for a one-man show at the Duluth Art Institute. Martin, welcome to the playlist.
Thanks, Karen.
So how does it feel now to be focusing on your own studio work?
Well, I think you mentioned the 30 years of arts administration, didn't you? It's great, and it's really a lifetime dream to really be able to focus on the work and get in the studio and spend some concentrated time.
So you just got finished with an artist in residency out in Maine, on an island off the coast of Maine.
Yes, it was the Helliker Houghton Foundation Artist Residency, and I was able to work there over a month and focus in on a new body of work and complete several paintings that'll be in the exhibition.
We have some pictures of you, and that just says creative energy right there. Well, that's really fun.
It was a great space, and it really lent itself to taking the opportunity and zeroing in on the atmosphere of the island, Great Cranberry Island in Maine, and having an impact of the atmosphere of the place and the people and the moment that was there.
So because you work in a more abstract and not representational, it's sometimes harder, I think, for people to see and feel where you're going without being able to know more about you. How do you get that in that canvas?
It's interesting because as soon as you start talking about abstraction, people might start back away. But it is really an inherent phenomenon that we all can relate to, I think, and that has to do with the experience of nature, and that's what I'm most interested in, of course, and the atmospheric effects of nature, but also what an artist, a visual artist, can do with the art elements, color, shape, form, texture, the nature of space, and then how that artist can then create an image that's interesting for a new experience for the viewers.
So with this experience as an art administrator, though, you know, your years at the Tweed Museum setting up exhibits, years in Asheville, North Carolina, do you think about the way your art is going to be presented? Or is that, do you even think about the eventual viewer, or is it you communicating a message?
Well, I'm always thinking about how it's going to be presented. It's important to have it accessible to the viewers of all ages, and I'm certainly interested in that, of children and adults of all ages and backgrounds, to be able to respond to it. And over the years, yes, working with numbers of artists and seeing how they do the same thing and learning a lot from artists and sharing and partnerships, collaborations, I've learned a lot on how to try to do that and have a real meaningful experience for people when they do see something that's new and different.
Well, now we're getting ready to be able to see your work presented at the Duluth Art Institute.
That's right.
So tell us a little bit about what we might see, and we actually even have some sneak preview pictures here.
Well, it's great to have a chance to have a show at the Duluth Art Institute, another community partner, and what we're going to be looking at is probably 20 works or so that span 2 years, work that's been influenced by some of our travels. Sharon and I have been fortunate to travel to Latin America recently, to Mexico and Peru, and these works that we're seeing right now were inspired by a trip to Cusco and Machu Picchu, which is a great Aztec ruin site of the 14th century. And then most recently, with the trip to Maine, it was quite an exciting opportunity to push it a little further.
So here you have the influence of, you know, your years here looking out at Lake Superior, and then you add that to the mountains of Latin America. And how, are those voices distinctly different, or do they get woven into the same voice that is you?
Well, they are different, and they are all different to the particular place and the moment when you come to it and then take away from it. But there are some similarities. You mentioned certainly the Great Lake, Lake Superior, and the big mountains, Smoky Mountains. And when Sharon and I went to North Carolina, we said, well, we traded the big lake for the big mountains because they have the same atmospheric changes day after day. You never know quite what's going to happen. Very dramatic. The weather, of course, is dramatic there too, and very exciting to take a risk on how to then identify your own personal statement and how you feel about it.
What I find interesting of your work is when you get to see it in person. Then you can really distinguish and feel the textures.
Well, it's very important to see the work firsthand, and you can literally come up and if the security guard isn't there, you might sneak a little touch on
Don't
it.
encourage that of all people.
But you get to really get close to the work and see what it's all about, and take the time. That's always the challenge, is to have the time and then to take the time to look at work.
Well, thank you for taking the time to come over today and share your work through the Art Institute.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
We're looking forward to seeing that. So the Art Institute show goes up November 10th. It opens, and it is up through the beginning of January.
Funding for the playlist is provided by the citizens of Minnesota through the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and by viewers like you.